Hi, I'm Jeff Dixon. Welcome back to Conspiracy Cases, where we're looking at a UFO sighting happened in 1991. In the previous two episodes, we've explored how a woman named Diane had this mysterious encounter where she saw something out of her back window. Aftermath of it, we found out a mysterious videotape delivered to a UFO researcher named Bob had brought him to Canada to follow up. Eventually, he showed the videotape to Diane, and it was exactly what she had seen. Verification of that encounter. Proof, if you will, that it took place. And so, the verification process was only just beginning. Dr. Bruce McAfee is a U.S. Navy physicist and a photo analyst, and he studied UFO for years. He was the next person to view the tape. He examined the videotape, and after looking at it, after watching the tape, didn't believe it was a hoax. He noted that it was the clearest video he had seen that showed a structured, unified object. He pointed out the blue beacon light on top, a reflection of the light on the object's body below, which we mentioned, the outline of the object itself with the dark lines on it. He noticed some brightness in the structure, indicating that something generating green and blue light was hanging down below the object, and the possibility of other structures that were obscured by the glare from the bright light. McAfee was particularly intrigued by the bright strobing light. He noted that it was unusual because it was blue and running very fast. It was running about 7 cycles per second, much faster than an ordinary flashing beacon on any aircraft of that era. They usually ran about 1 or 2 cycles per second. The section of the video that showed the object hovering over the rise was quite convincing to him. It was what one would expect if the cameraman was in the field trying to get closer to the object, and he believed that the cameraman turned on the camera as he approached the object, and then he moved the camera down until the entire object was in view. The lights reflecting the image into the camera suggested to McAfee that the object shot a beam of light of sorts at the cameraman momentarily. Weird, bizarre. Believe it or not, the footage I'm describing to you is available on a number of websites and is available, all you have to do is go Google it on YouTube, and sure enough, you'll find it for yourself. McAfee estimated that the unknown object was 20 to 30 feet in diameter. Now, according to Bob, the object's apparent size argues against it being a hoax. Bob said because it was that big, it just couldn't have been faked. He felt like it was so large that it wouldn't be logical for someone to set it up at night in utter darkness and then be able to pull off the hoax and then be able to get out of there and hide it away with no evidence that it had ever been there. No cables, no residue that someone had been there even perpetuating a hoax. Bob said the lack of evidence was evidence itself. Because Bob believed that Diane would have seen the evidence when she went out the next morning looking for it, but she did not. Audio analysis of the tape also had on it the distant barking of dogs, which, if you remember our first episode, is what brought Diane's attention to go to the back window to look at the beginning. Perhaps the same dogs reported by Diane. The object itself appeared to be silent. There was no audible trace of power generators, which, if the object was staged, would have been necessary to run the lights that were powering it. Dr. Robert Nathan of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory also was asked to review and validate the tape in a non-official capacity, of course, because, well, NASA doesn't want to officially be on the record about any of this kind of stuff. He could not explain the images, and he also could not dismiss it as a hoax. That's important. He didn't say it was real, but he also strongly believed that it wasn't a hoax. He just wasn't sure what it was. In a puzzling coincidence, low-flying helicopters have cruised over West Carrollton regularly since that 1991 sighting. According to Diane and other residents, the helicopters are black and green or maroon in color. They're unmarked They have darkly tinted windows, at least on the side where you can't really see inside through the side windows. Obviously, the shield over the front is a little more transparent. The Canadian military, by the way, denies any involvement in it and contends that those helicopters are not theirs. Where the helicopters come from and where they go, what they're searching for remains a mystery. According to a Canadian military official, the helicopters used in that area of Canada don't fly that low. They have a designated flying training area about 30 miles to the west, and therefore there's no reason for military helicopters to be near private citizens' homes. Bob believes that the 1991 sightings was either, at this point, a military operation that was taking place on private property. It could be a hoax, and he was still leaving some room for the fact that maybe they had all been duped. Or, and most importantly to him, this was some sort of non-human technology. One way or the other, the tape had been verified, and it was considered by experts not to be a hoax. So what happens next? Well, the key to the case is waiting to be unlocked. And so in our next conspiracy case episode, we'll look at the key to the case. Don't go very far. We'll be back and continue to explain this mysterious UFO sighting.